welcome to Board Game Bonkers. And under the Meeple lights today, we have a game designer, Roberto Di Meglio. And I hope I haven't butchered that name, unfortunately. I'm not Italian, but I've done my best. He's the designer of War of the Rings, which is a very popular board game. Welcome, Roberto.
Hello, Jay. Thank you for the invite.
Thanks so much for coming on. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Okay, a little bit. So I'm a designer. As you said, War of the Ring, the board game is my most famous design. I worked on all the other games in the line, like the Battle of Five Armies, and as developer in the War of the Ring card game. I published also, I created a small children board game called The Rattlesnake, which was published several years ago by Fantasy Flight Games and also got a nomination for the Spiel des Jahres, the German Game of the Year award. I worked on other games like the Conan, Age of Conan, the board game, Marvel Heroes. But apart from the designer, most of my time is spent as the director of the production and development at RS Games, which is an Italian company which develops board games for the international market. I've been in the gaming industry for more than 30 years now, so you can see from the bold page that
Is that
I'm
right?
getting old in the game industry.
Is that what happens? Is that you lose all your hair? Is it?
Yeah.
So what I'll do, I'll explain for the viewers what this is all about. So we're doing a Q&A. It's not a quiz, it's a Q&A, but with a few twists. But what's the twist? Well, our guest has no idea what the questions will be that we'll be presenting to them, of which there'll be 10 questions. That's because they'll be pulled from this ball. And we have
Okay.
no idea what the questions will be either. So we'll be dishing out one at a time, and when we've finished with those 10 questions, we'll move them to the side. So future guests coming on will have 10 completely new and unique questions. So
Okay.
are you ready?
Ready.
Fantastic.
Let's
So we'll
go.
find out whether you'll thrive under the Meeple lights or be a bit nervous as we pull out our first question.
Okay.
So question one, Roberto. So share an aspect of your work or life experience that has brought you here today.
So what aspect? I think that's very interesting. I'm here today. Yeah, I'm here today because of pneumonia 20 years ago. In the sense that that sick period in my life 20 years ago put me in a position that I had nothing to do, and I started designing War of the Ring. And then a little bit snowballed after that, in the sense that, of course, War of the Ring was a launch pad for a presence as a designer and later also as a publisher on the international market. And then that's probably why you wanted to reach out to me and ask me for this interview. So, yeah, if it wasn't for being sick for a few weeks 20 years ago and starting to design War of the Ring while I was there at home without doing much else, then probably I wouldn't be here.
It's certainly funny how life throws at us and these opportunities come along at the times you don't expect it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It was really unexpected that out of that would be such a kind of outcome for sure.
Fantastic. So let's dive into question number two, Roberto.
Yeah, sure.
Just give this a little shuffle. Here we go. We got one. So number two, what's the most impressive things you've ever seen at a convention?
Hmm. This is tricky because, of course, impressive can be impressive in different ways, positive or less positive. I think one of the, say, possibly impressive things was to be at Gen Con, seeing the escalators breaking down, and say the popular opinion at the show was that they were breaking down because of too many gamers there, and sometimes gamers like myself tend to be have a little bit too much fat under the belly. So that was what people say that it was very very funny. Now, more seriously, impressive things at Gen Con. Also, Gen Con definitely is the one of the most impressive shows there, and I don't know, the love that celebrities get there. It's really unusual. So even people from like say old TV people getting there and getting all the love from the attendees. That's very cool. And on the opposite side of the ocean, I would say that the very first time that I was at the Spiel in Essen, Germany, I was really impressed by seeing how the German market was different from what I was used to in both the US and Italy, because of the impression that really everybody there was playing. So seeing families, with people of all ages, people of all types being there, while at the time, especially, it was, as I said, about 30 years ago, at the time when you went to conventions in Italy or in the United States, it was mostly middle-aged or young adults, males, and you saw very little of different kind of people, different kind of demographics. So I was really impressed the first time I was in Essen to see, okay, here in Germany, really everybody is playing, so there can be games for everybody.
Yeah, and certain things have moved on now, haven't they? And we're seeing games more accessible to more people in the community and families as well.
Yeah.
So great to see. Let's move on to question number three, Roberto.
Okay.
Let's see what goodies we have coming out. Oh, we've got a big one halfway. So, what is the biggest piece of advice you can give someone planning to launch a game for the first time? So perhaps they're a game designer who looking to launch in crowdfunding. What
Mhm.
advice would you give them?
Okay, this is really tricky because the first sentiment would be say, don't, don't do it. But seriously, I know that it's useless because when you are passionate about doing something, you should. And so if you are really passionate about launching your first game, make sure that you have some clear message about why your game is unique, because there are so many games nowadays out there in the market, both on crowdfunding and in general terms on the various kind of channels you can use to reach the market, thousands of games every year, that you really need to be very clear, send a very strong message. So why this game rather than the other thousands of games that are launching at the same time? So, and also, of course, before launching, when you design and develop your games, try to do your best, strive for creating something which is unique and original. Don't do just another game just because, unless of course it's a passion project and then everything goes. But if you want to try to have a chance to be really successful, you need to strive for originality.
Yeah, it's a very good point, and uniqueness can come in different shapes, can't it? It's not just having something completely original, it's also unique, can be a little bit different than what's out there. And I know the chap who was looking down here when they did Architects of West Kingdom, that worker placement mechanism was done a little bit different than other worker placement games. That was what was unique about it. So it can just be a little thing that can make a big difference to a board game.
Mhm. Yeah,
So let's move on to question number four, Roberto.
sure.
What's the best convention you've ever been to? So that kind of rolls on.
Yes, I already sort of replied to that, but I think that from a personal perspective, the best convention was the first. It was so many years ago. It was, I think it was 1984, so almost 40 years now. And so I was just 18. I was say like 3, 4 years before I started playing hobby games with Avalon Hills products and Dungeons and Dragons, those kind of, say, more specialist games apart from the children games that I was playing before. And the first time that I went to a convention, it was called at the time the Italian National Convention. It was a September event which was held that year was held in Verona in northern Italy, and yeah, finding that there were hundreds of people like me, so passionate about the same things that I was doing, passionate about Dungeons and Dragons, passionate about board games. That was, say, I think, incredible, and say, even if it was much smaller than most conventions I went to afterwards, I think that was the most important one to me.
Fantastic, and yes, it seems like it's that nostalgia there with that convention, and I'm sure many people have got their own favourites as well. It'd be great to hear from people. If you can leave a comment down below. It'd be great to hear others and what their favourite convention is, so that others can kind of share some good experiences. So let's move on to question number 5, Roberto.
Okay.
So hopefully we get one that's a lot different. So, what is the most memorable board game you have ever designed or played? So, we'll go with played. So, what's the most memorable game that you have played?
Hmm. Choosing only one, that's really that's really tough. In a way, I can say it's the predecessor to the game I designed. So SPI's War of the Ring back in the early 80s, the game which was designed by Richard Berg and Howard Barash, because even if it was, say, not perfect in terms of what nowadays we could consider, say, modern boarding and design, had some faults which I was well aware of when I designed together with Francesco and Marco War of the Ring. So what didn't work well with that game, and so we tried to make improvements over those kind of issues. But at the time, it was just say heartbreaking as an experience to see that huge map of Middle Earth on spread on the table with all the hundreds and hundreds of little counters representing all the armies of Middle Earth, and all the individual characters and those beautiful illustrated cards with all the characters and monsters. So at the time, it was such an emotion to see the story of the Lord of the Rings unfold on a gaming board. That was just incredible, and surely the impression that game left was one of the things driving me to design War of the Ring, and said, okay, I wanted to create a game which is somehow like that one, but of course trying to create it, design it in a way that it would meet the today's standards in terms of game design.
Yeah, there's certainly been a great achievement as well, Roberto, and that highly received. I think it's what ranked number 9 in Board Game Geek,
Yeah.
which, a fantastic achievement and no mean feat indeed. So we'll move on to our next question, and we're on question 6. How do you define success in your role or in the board game industry? What defines success?
Uh, to become a millionaire. It's not. But that's something which doesn't really happen a lot in our industry. So let's define a different measure of success. Maybe it's better. So now I define a success in terms of being a designer, designing something that you're really uh, excited when you play it, that you're that you're proud when people play it. So something that you can be proud of. And I think the same thing applies as a publisher as well, because most of my work nowadays is in publishing. Try to publish those games that you think you can really enjoy as a player. So success because it's the satisfaction, the pleasure that you get from what you're doing, rather than just say how many copies you're selling or how much money you're doing.
A very good point because people get hung up on I sold X amount, so it must be, a great success, or, I've got so many likes on Facebook, so it's been a great success. And success isn't just measured in numbers, is it? Like you pointed out, it can be measured in many different ways. And it's not just about the numbers. So it's
Mhm.
a very good point indeed. Okay, let's move on to question number 7 then. So seven comes away. What's the most innovative board game design you have ever come across?
Ineffective.
Innovative, so the most original, unique board
I
game.
never tell you. Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. Oh, this is interesting. Um, I think the first time that I played a purely cooperative game. It was Bruno Faidutti's Red November. So I'm not sure if it was really the first one in an absolute sense, but it was probably around the same time that Knizia's Lord of the Rings cooperative game was released. And I think at the time was really striking to me because of the way the crisis management handled in an automatic way, developed something which is essentially been a staple in most cooperative games afterwards. So the fact that the system could be so smart and so effective in generating crises that you had to handle, and this continuous feeling of tension that you had to live through because you wanted to control all the crises which is spring it out here and there, and and how finally balanced that proved to be, so that in the end it was so always so close the outcome for good or bad. So I think those kind of early games will define the cooperative genre. I think they definitely were a breakthrough in bringing a lot of more games of that kind, which are not as innovative as they were.
Yeah, and the same could be said to the likes of Dominion, which is one of the, I think, the first deck building game as well. So there's lots of games, if you go back, that came up with these new game mechanisms, and you can even stretch as far as kind of modern gaming with the likes of legacy games, which was quite unique in itself when they were starting come into the game design hobby. So it's yeah, there's a lot of great innovative designs there. I'm sure it'd be great to hear from the viewers as well, whether they've got any particular innovative or unique games that they've played and they would like to share, so others can check them out as well. So let's move on to question number 8.
Right.
um, This is quite an interesting one, Roberto. So I don't know if you watch too much on YouTube, but is there room for more board game reviewers?
Mm, I think yes, in the sense that I think that it's still award where there are a lot of reviewers. Of course, almost every day there are new YouTube channels and new reviewers coming out. But I don't think there are so many good ones that we can really say that the market is saturated. So again, is a very competitive environment. The board game world in these days, including trying to be a board game reviewer. But I think there's still space for originality, and there's still space for people trying to do things in a smart and professional way. So I think yes, but with the right ideas, the right approach, not just say sit down in front of a camera, open up a board game, and start speaking about it.
Yeah, it's a good point, and well, hopefully the space for board game bonkers. We will soon.
Mhm. That's yeah. At least yes, there's an originality in the format, originality in the idea that you'll find out if people like it. But I think it's at least it's different. It feels different.
Yeah, that's it. And I remember when we started, we're looking to start this channel, was about what can we do that's different because we don't want to be doing exactly the same as what someone else is doing.
Mhm.
Hopefully this channel brings that a little bit uniqueness, but we will see what the general public feels about that.
Mhm. Yeah, sure.
On to question number 9.
Yeah.
What is your favorite failure that set you up for success? So, was there a point in your game design that failed that then realized that actually that set you up in the future to be successful?
Hmm. Um, in a way, even if it's not maybe a failure in an absolute sense, but in our Age of Conan game, we designed and developed a game which I think was maybe a better game in terms of the mechanics than even War of the Ring, to which it is related in terms of mechanics, but was not as successful as War of the Ring was. And I think the reason why the game somehow failed in a sense in comparison to its older brother is because of the disconnect between thematic expectations by the gamers and what the game provided. So realizing that, okay, when thinking about the Conan board game, people think about Conan, so individual heroic adventures, say the epic greatness of the barbarian. And while the game, for various reasons related to the license and the type of games that you wanted to develop, was in fact a game about the Heborian world, about the age of Conan, as the title says. So it's not only about like making a design that works, but also creating a design that matches what people expect from your game. And so I think that's an important lesson that we have learned through that game.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because you could use that concept with even with music, couldn't you? Because people expect a certain style from someone, and if you change it too much, it can kind of sway them away to think, "Well, I wasn't expecting that." Um,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it's a very good point.
Yeah, in a different way, it also happened a little bit with our Hunt for the Ring game, which is an excellent hidden movement game in the War of the Ring family. In fact, thematically speaking, it's the prequel to War of the Ring because it covers the journey of the Fellowship of the Ring, of Frodo before the Fellowship of the Ring is formed, so between the Shire and Rivendell. And one of the things which we like the most about the game, so that in the second part of the game, it's not at all like a traditional hidden movement game, but you are playing Gandalf, which is trying to steer away the Nazguls from Frodo, while Frodo, which is the hidden pawn, the hidden piece moving in the first part, becomes a sort of an going automatically by itself, while you are controlling Gandalf, trying to steer the Nazgul away. And then that was not appreciated by a lot of people. Say, okay, but it doesn't feel like a normal hidden movement games. It's different. Yes, we know it's different because we wanted to do something different, but people just looking at, we want a game of that genre, we want a hidden movement game, then they automatically expect a certain number of elements. And if there is a mismatch between the expectation and the design elements, sometimes it can happen that instead of being appreciated as originals, they are just upsetting to the players.
Yes, we have to be careful with unique and innovative designs, certainly. So, then for our final question, number 10. So, there's a nice fluffy one there. So, what's the first thing you consider when buying a board game?
I can say to somebody, or
Well, what do you so when you go to a shop or you shop online for a board game that you want to buy, what's the first thing you consider? What's the first thing you look for when buying?
okay, yeah, I see. Oh, personally, it's mostly about the theme, mostly about the kind of impression that the game creates to me in terms of how fascinating the subject is to me. That's really the of course, I say in terms of entering a shop and finding a game, of course, that very often conveyed through the artwork, so a striking cover, of course, attracting you, but it's mostly about the theme. It's very rare that I pick up a game deals with something a topic which I'm really not interested in. Then the mechanics, of course, and finding more information about the game, but the theme is definitely the top consideration for me.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I remember when I first got into gaming, it was more about the mechanisms in games,
Mm,
not so much in the theme. And now my mindset has changed that there's got to be a theme. It's got to make sense of what I'm doing.
yeah.
It gives you a strong feeling for when you're playing the game as well. If there's a really good theme there that you enjoy and engrossed in as well.
Yeah, no, it's really, I think, a two school of thoughts in a sense, theme first or mechanic first. But of course, in the end, to create the gaming experience, the two things meet and merge. And if they merge well, of course, that's the best gaming experience that you create. But yeah, I think it's really two different schools, two different type of gamers getting into the game from one door or the other door.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to have a debate one day, isn't it, with people out there, mechanisms or theme, which one comes first? So,
Definitely.
fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Roberto. So that's the end of the show. We hope you've enjoyed that. And a big thank you to our
Thank
guest.
you.
Haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the like button as well and leave a comment down below. Is there any particular highlights of today's show that you enjoyed? And perhaps there's some questions you would like us to ask our guests in the future. Well, please get involved and let us know in the comments down below. That's it all for now. My name's Jay Sears and thanks so much for watching. Until next time, take care.